Hello everyone, this is Dr. Sangeeta Laura Biagi. I'm a professor in the Religious Studies Department at Lorenzo de Medici in Florence, CAMNES. And we are delighted to share with you a series of episodes on our research and our practice in yoga studies and mindfulness here at Lorenzo de Medici, CAMNES. So we would like to begin with a contemplation on yoga. What is yoga? What do we mean by yoga? Nowadays, if you if you do a search online on yoga, you will find so many entries. And in the West, in Europe, in the United States, for example, yoga has been, over the last decades, mostly associated with the physical aspects of yoga. There's a whole universe in asana. Asana are the physical postures of yoga. And in fact, if you ask most people, who have never studied yoga before, what is yoga? They may say a series of postures. Some of them are very famous, like the cross-legged posture with the mudras and the namaskara mudra and so on. So here at CAMNES and Lorenzo de Medici, we are very passionate about the topic of yoga. Yoga is a universe, and we do study it historically and also in its contemporary applications, of course, including the amazing world of yoga therapy, yoga chikitsa, as well as the ramifications of the study of yoga, the practice of yoga in neuroscience and medicine in general. So yoga, the word yoga, is a Sanskrit word that means union, yug. It means union. From this word, yoga, the English word yoke comes from. So union, unity, uniting, bringing together, bridging, apparent opposites. So what does this mean? First of all, every time we have a word such as union, this implies that there is, in our experience, the reality of lack of union. So what do I mean by that? When we say that there's union, let's say, between our mind and body, why do we need to have the concept of union? We do need it because most of us feel that there's a mind and then there's a body, that there is a lack of unity. So yoga implies in itself both the process of uniting and the goal, if we should look at a goal, of the unity itself. So there are many definitions of yoga. If you ask all of the teachers, the living traditions in India and in Nepal and in Tibet, if you ask the masters, what is yoga? They will all give you different definitions. If you ask yoga teachers around the world, what is yoga? They may give you different definitions. But one definition that has been used often is the definition that Maharishi Patanjali, a great sage of India, gave, yogaha chittavritti nirodha, which means yoga is the pacification or the cessation of the whirlpools of the mind. What does this mean? Vritti is a wave of thought. It's a form of thought. It's a brain wave. So vrittis are all of our thoughts, many different thoughts. So our thoughts are very vivacious, as you probably know. We have thoughts that are about the past, memories. We have thoughts when we sleep, dreams. We have thoughts about the future, anticipations, projections. And then we have thoughts in our present moment. These thoughts in the present moment also may come from true perception. Sometimes they may come from false perception. The example that is often given is that you mistake a snake for a rope, right? How many times has this happened to you? Think about it. So Yoga is the pacification or the harmonization or the cessation of all of these thoughts. Why is this important? Why is this such an important definition of yoga? As I said, it's one of the many, but it's a very important one, which defines yoga as a way of life rather than just a series of physical exercises that we do in the studio, in the gym, on the beach, or wherever people are practicing yoga nowadays. So the cessation of these many thoughts is not to say that we are encouraging people not to think. On the opposite. Yoga is a series of, let's say, principles and practices that help us become aware of our thinking patterns. Most of our thinking patterns, most of these vrittis, are unconscious. This is something that I ask the students here often. How many thoughts do you consciously think? Like, how many times can you actually hold one or maybe two at the most thoughts consciously in your focus without losing concentration? And the answer is not very often. Because what happens is that the unconscious, subconscious thoughts keep coming up. They spring up. And most of the day, we are thought by our own thoughts rather than we think a thought and finish the thought and act according to the thought. So most of us are a bunch of vrittis. We are all in our heads, like there's an expression, right? I'm in my head. Like we're all in our heads moving around. And especially now with phones scrolling, you actually see people on the trains, on the trams, oftentimes, unfortunately, even in cars that are on their phones. And these wave patterns of their thoughts move them around. What is the problem with that? Because there is a problem. A fundamental problem with that is lack of awareness of the present moment. So many contemplative practices that are based in yoga and they're based in contemplation, these are the practices that want to help us focus on the present moment. So you may have heard this before, if you practice mindfulness, if you practice any form of contemplation, meditation, or even the yoga classes, your instructors may have told you, focus on the present moment. What is this present moment? What does this mean? So the present moment is that moment in which you are present to yourself, meaning you are aware of your body, the posture. You're aware of your energy, of your breath flow. You are aware of your focus. You're aware of what you're saying. You are able to follow your thoughts for an extended period of time. This is the present moment. Is it easy to focus on the present moment? Of course not. Of course not. That's why there's so many practices nowadays. You can find so many forms of, in quote, meditation that focus on that, because it is difficult, because the vrittis or these wave thoughts distract us. So when we are distracted, first of all, we are more prone to accidents. Like, if you're in your thought and you're not focusing on what's happening as you're walking in the streets or driving, it could be problematic. But also there's a disconnection between your thoughts that are happening, in what you perceive to be your mind over here. But, it could be a memory from 5 years ago, a projection of a year from now. And there's a disconnect between that, your body moving in space or not moving in space, and then your breath. And so this disconnection, which is the opposite of yoga, this disconnection and the unawareness of the disconnection in the long term may cause a sense of stress, because this is rooted in a lack of unity, a lack of connection, a lack of wholesomeness. So yoga as a way of life teaches us to become aware of, first of all, the first thing we can perceive is the body. So you will find in yoga practices from different traditions, there are many traditions of yoga, in different traditions of yoga, you will all find a contemplation on the physical body. This is where asana is important, postures, awareness of the body, then awareness of the emotions, awareness of prana, and we will do a new episode on prana, so stay tuned and follow us on this channel. But the prana, we will look at it separately, but prana is life energy, what moves things, what keeps this planet and rotating on itself and then moving around the sun. What is this? What is this that holds everything together? And what is this energy that I feel? The heat in my hands. And this is prana in a few words. So awareness of my energy level. What affects my energy level? What affects my body? As you can see, these are very connected together. So asana, or the physical body posture, is obviously connected to prana in the same way that anatomy of the body is connected to its physiology. Then we start to become aware of our mind, of our thoughts, how much we follow the senses and how much sensorial inputs guide us through the day, of course, and also may distract us. We are constantly trying to satisfy our sensorial inputs unless we become aware of the pull they have on us. And then, generally, in general, the thought as we begin speaking about thoughts. So awareness of body, awareness of emotions, awareness of mind, awareness of thoughts. So when we become aware of one of these aspects, we begin a life in yoga. And we commit to becoming more and more aware, knowing that in yoga, or union of body, emotions, mind, when we start to feel the unity, that we are this wholesomeness, this results in health. The word health in English comes from an old German word that implies healing, health, wholesomeness, hospitality. All of these sounds you can feel are all connected. So health means wholesomeness, means bringing together all the different aspects of ourselves. So very briefly, even though it's not a very brief video, but briefly, even before we go into the history of yoga, the many traditions, where is yoga from? Just a pill here to make you realize that when embarking on a path of yoga, we are saying yes to our happiness, to our health, and we are taking the destiny of our life in our hands, because each one of us is responsible for our own health, within the limits of what we can manage at the moment, of course. So thank you so much for following this episode. And this is an exploration. All of these episodes are an exploration of the many facets of contemplation, of meditation, of yoga, of mindfulness. So hopefully you will continue to follow us. Let us know if you have any questions. You can find an email in the video description below where you can ask us. Of course, you can also leave questions in the comments. And I hope to see you in our next episode. Namaste.
Hi guys, if you want to discover more about archaeology and our ancient past from a different perspective, make sure to click on the CAMNES logo here below. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you will never miss an episode and join the archaeological community in search of the truth.